Greetings to one and all, it's your old buddy Jay here, coming at you with another Countermeasures Game Changer. Now, this week I would like to talk about the 2016 release of Ratchet & Clank. Now, this game was originally developed by Insomniac, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and it came out in 2016, so it was, it's only 5 years old already, so, it's been around for a little while. Now, I purchased this a little while ago because I'd heard it was really good. I'm not really a fan of these kind of sort of cutesy games, to be completely honest with you. And it sat on my shelf for quite a long time. And every time I looked at it, I thought, I've heard that's really good. I'll get to it at some point. And then I just never did. And there's lots of other zombie apocalypse games that I need to work through before I get to this. But I must admit that I made a huge mistake because this game is absolutely excellent. I cannot rave about how brilliant this game is. So it's originally based on the IP which came out for Ratchet & Clank in 2002 for PlayStation, and it's basically a story about a little creature called a Lombax, who's this kind of sort of rabbit-like mouse squirrel creature that you can see running around here, and his little friend Clank, who's like a kind of a vagrant robot that's been that sort of shouldn't have been made really. The baddie robots get made, and they're all big and mean and muscly, and Clank gets made and he's like this little kind of throwaway. So they form an unlikely alliance, and they go on various adventures. Now, like I said, I just didn't really like the look of this. The whole franchise over the years. I've been playing games for a long time. Every time I saw anything to do with Ratchet & Clank, it was an instant turn off. It's like that whole Banjo-Kazooie world of kind of cartoony adventures. It doesn't quite work with me. I like something a little bit more realistic. And what I realized is that I think during that time I was being totally ignorant, because this game was just really refreshing and really fun. I mean, I have been through several apocalypses now in my lifetime, and every game ends on a slightly sad or depressing note. Lots of death and zombies and all that kind of stuff, or it's Call of Duty and there's war and machine guns and all this kind of stuff. And this game was just an absolute palate cleanser, really. So I regret not picking it up and playing it sooner. Like I said, I just had it I had it in my library to play, but then there are so many games stacked up that I preferred to play at the time. I never quite got to it. Now, with the launch of Rift Apart, which has only just come out, and I'm going to do a follow-up second part review to this video which talks about that game, I thought, well, I better, that game looks epic on the PS5, so I thought, well, I better go back and actually play this one first, because I understand there's been a lot of Ratchet & Clank games over the years, and this is basically a remake. It's not a continuation of any of those other games, but there are references throughout the game to various characters that have existed throughout the lore. So yeah, it's a total reboot, really. And first thing I'd like to talk about are the graphics. Now, this game, considering it is 5 years old, which means that actually it was probably developed 2 to 3 years before that, so potentially it's 8 years old, really, at a push. It looks incredible. I mean, it plays, it's a PS4 exclusive. Obviously, I was playing this on the PS5 because there is some cross-play on quite a lot of their games now. And it was just absolutely brilliant. Like, the colors are vibrant. The art style I actually really, really liked. I think the previous games, maybe the quality of the graphics weren't quite there, which was something that always put me off. And I don't mind playing games that are a little bit janky, but it didn't quite feel like they'd reached a kind of a look that I particularly like or connected to. And again, having seen this since it sort of relaunched, I think I was put off by those previous iterations of the games that I already didn't really like the look of. But I mean, this game is basically like playing a Pixar movie from start to finish. I mean, the story is really engaging. The characters are really well written. The voice acting is brilliant. The art style, like I said, is just excellent. I mean, it borrows from so many other genres in sci-fi. And, if you've seen any of my other videos, whether it's talking about film or games, and design, it often can stray towards sci-fi because I have an affinity towards that. So having not played this before is a total sin, and I do absolutely regret that. And yeah, as you can see just from the footage that we're looking at here, a lot of the style is kind of lifted from things like Flash Gordon. There's references to like Star Wars. The planets are just really well put together, that you visit all these different areas. I mean, it's just really, really creative thinking within this kind of sci-fi space, which I enjoyed. Now, the story, I'm just going to skimp over it really quickly because I don't want any spoilers, because I do recommend that you go out and play this game if you haven't already. Basically, you're a Lombax, you want to join the Space Rangers, and you can't, you get rejected, and then various things play out where Clank the robot gets created and finds out a little bit of information that there's going to be some invasions on various planets. So again, it's a bit like Star Wars in as much as like R2-D2 is holding the plans to the Death Star that's going to rule the galaxy. It's a similar thing here, which is there's a robot that has some information that could potentially determine the fate of the galaxy, and he meets Ratchet, and then they hang out together and they go on various adventures. They go on all these different planets, they meet all these different characters. Slowly over time, your character grows. They grow to really care about each other. You connect to them in a way that I didn't really think was possible in a game like this, but you really do start caring about what happens to them, and the other subsequent non-NPCs and non-playable characters as well. It's just really, really well written and really well put together, and I loved every single second of it. So the art style, like I said, I love that. The writing is brilliant. The voice acting, I mean, some of these games, they are good at one thing or two things, but they're not good at everything. This game just ticks all the boxes. I really would recommend that if you haven't had a go on it already, then you really, really should. The other things I need to mention is, the gameplay itself. Obviously, you skip between playing as Ratchet, so you run around with your Ratchet. You're essentially like an engineer, and you smash boxes and you collect different sort of pieces of metal and fragments, and those fragments then sort of are a currency which you can then spend in the shop to buy new weapons and upgrade your arsenal. And the weapons are pretty amazing. I usually, whenever I'm playing anything like this, I sort of default to the machine gun, and then that's it, I'm good for the whole game. But this game really encourages you to experiment with all of the weapons, from like bombs. There's a really awesome gun which is called the Pixelator, and what that does is like takes the amazing like Pixar like graphics of what you're looking at here, and it turns the characters into like 8-bit pixelated characters when you're fighting them. It's just really, really brilliant. There's like obviously you get like hand grenades, machine guns, there's a flamethrower, there's the best weapon that you have, which I absolutely love, is a little robot popped up called Mr. Zircon, and he just comments and talks all the way through while you're fighting, and he says things like Mr. Zircon deals death and all this kind of stuff. It's just really, really well done in a game that's sort of relatively cutesy. The writing behind that particular character is just hilarious. Now, there aren't many things in this world that make me laugh out loud. I find things funny. I appreciate a lot of good comedy. There's some good comedians I like. There's a lot of crap out there, and a lot of these games suffer from trying to do too much. Like, are they a sci-fi shooter? Are they is it a cutesy game for kids? This strikes the balance like The Simpsons also does, which is there's a lot of stuff here for kids. Kids are going to absolutely love playing it, but as an adult, I'm 40 and the writing is so well done, and the conversations between some of the bad guys when you're creeping up on them and things like that they're just so witty and on point that as an adult, there's something for you there too. You can take away a really great experience, and I would absolutely recommend this 100% to anyone who is even sitting on the fence of whether they should have a go on it or not, because like I said, I can't keep banging on about how good it is. And it has like you can see here, there's all different types of styles of gameplay. You're on foot sometimes you're in a ship, sometimes you're racing on hoverboards, sometimes you are grinding with your grind boots on railings throughout the whole experience, throughout the whole levels. So the gameplay does really change it up. So just when you start getting bored of this little bit, or maybe it's becoming a little repetitive, it changes up to something different. The only downside, of course, there are always downsides. These games aren't always perfect, and as much as I'd like to say they aren't. And this particular game does suffer from one thing, which is that any level where you're playing as Clank, you're essentially just doing these sort of mini problem solving exercises. They're just not really very good. They're not hard enough to be rewarding when you complete them. They're not easy enough that you can just whiz through them and get them out of the way. They're just annoying, and I found that a lot of those sections were becoming a little bit of a grind, and I didn't really like those bits as much. But overall, the game itself is just really good fun. It's really engaging. It has something for all ages. The style of it is really good. I mean, considering it is, released 5 years ago, created within sort of 7 to 8 years, I think the quality has held up. I think the gameplay, the mechanics, the design of the whole thing, the way the whole thing's put together, the level layouts, the designs of the levels, they're just really clever, really interesting, and just really well done and well thought through. And the team that worked on it all obviously did such a cracking job at Insomniac. Now the writer was he's just marked up as being one guy called TJ Fixman. So hats off to you, TJ. And it is available on the PlayStation 4 and obviously PS5 as kind of crossplay, but it's not available on anything else, so it is an exclusive there. So say what you like about Sony, and say what you like about the Xbox Game Pass being the way of the future. Sony do like their exclusives, and they're hanging on to Ratchet and Clank at the moment, and quite rightly so, because I think some of these games, this game could easily be a system seller, and I know for a fact that the Rift Apart follow-up to this has been really well received. So I can't bang on about how good this game is enough. So I think that's just about it for my first review for a little while. Haven't had quite enough time to get to these recently. I've had quite a lot of work on, and also I've been doing some other stuff on the channel, which is sort of more based around interviews, and I've got a few more of those coming up soon. So tune into those if you're interested, because obviously aside from the games, I also do various other videos that sort of cover things about design within the industry, but also anything else within the kind of popular culture that I think is worth talking about. So yeah, there you go. So I guess there's nothing else to say other than be good, stay safe, and be kind to one another. Cheers.